By the early 1770s, Boston had become a flashpoint for revolution. A colonial port of 16,000, where tension between British authority and colonial resistance was about to explode. Through AI reconstruction of historic engravings, we explore Boston at the moment America was born. I'm William, and this is the story of how a prosperous colonial city became the birthplace of American independence. Colonial Boston, 1760. A prosperous port city hugging Massachusetts Bay. Georgian brick buildings line cobblestone streets. Church spires rise above the harbor. Wealthy merchants in tricorn hats conduct business at Long Wharf, the longest pier in North America. Ships from England unload manufactured goods. Colonial vessels depart laden with timber, cod, and whale oil. This is a comfortable, orderly town, still loyal to the British Crown. Faneuil Hall serves as both marketplace and meeting house, representing colonial self-governance. The Stamp Act, 1765. Everything changed. Parliament imposed taxes on printed materials without colonial consent. No representation, yet taxation demanded. Boston erupted in protest. The Sons of Liberty organized resistance. Merchants boycotted British goods. Tax collectors found their offices destroyed, themselves intimidated into resignation. The Liberty Tree on Hanover Square became the symbol of colonial resistance. Here, protesters burned effigies of royal officials. Here, crowds heard speeches denouncing British tyranny. The act was repealed, but a line had been crossed. British authority could be challenged. British occupation, 1768. 4,000 redcoat soldiers arrived to restore order. 2 full regiments marched through streets designed for civilian commerce, not military occupation. Soldiers were quartered in barracks on the common and in public buildings commandeered for military use. British soldiers patrolled with muskets and bayonets fixed. Bostonians refused to house or feed them. Confrontations became routine. Insults exchanged, scuffles in taverns. The city transformed into an occupied zone where every interaction carried potential for violence. Boston Massacre, March 5, 1770. On King Street, a confrontation turned deadly. A crowd of colonists surrounded British sentries, throwing snowballs and insults. Captain Thomas Preston arrived with reinforcements. The crowd pressed closer. In the chaos and confusion, British soldiers fired into the crowd without orders. 5 men lay dead in the blood-stained snow. Crispus Attucks, Samuel Gray, James Caldwell among them. Paul Revere's engraving of the massacre spread throughout the colonies, inflaming revolutionary sentiment. The Old South Meeting House became the center of revolutionary organizing. Here, 5,000 colonists gathered in December 1773 to debate the tea crisis. Samuel Adams and John Hancock addressed the crowds. Negotiations with the governor failed. Boston Tea Party, December 16, 1773. That night, Sons of Liberty took action. Disguised as Mohawk Indians, they descended on Griffin's Wharf. 3 British ships sat laden with East India Company tea, the Dartmouth, Eleanor, and Beaver. Patriots boarded all 3 vessels and broke open 342 chests. They dumped 46 tons of tea into the harbor, worth £10,000. This was not protest. This was deliberate destruction of property, direct action. The colonists had crossed a line from petition to rebellion. The Intolerable Acts, 1774. Britain's retaliation was swift and severe. The port of Boston was closed until the destroyed tea was paid for. The Massachusetts Government Act stripped away colonial self-governance. Town meetings were banned. General Thomas Gage arrived as military governor with authority to quarter troops anywhere. Royal Navy warships patrolled the harbor entrance. No ships could enter or leave without British permission. Trade collapsed overnight. Unemployment soared. Food became scarce. But other colonies responded with solidarity. Virginia sent grain. Philadelphia sent money. New York sent livestock. Supply wagons arrived overland, bypassing the naval blockade. Boston's resistance was transforming into America's revolution. Preparations for war. Early 1775. Colonial militias drilled on village greens throughout Massachusetts. Military supplies were secretly stockpiled in Concord, 20 miles northwest of Boston. General Gage planned to seize the weapons and arrest Adams and Hancock before conflict became inevitable. Paul Revere's Ride, April 18, 1775. British troops moved secretly toward Concord. Watchers in Old North Church steeple hung 2 lanterns, 2 if by sea. The signal system worked. Paul Revere and William Dawes rode through the night, warning militia companies throughout Middlesex County. Revere galloped through villages, pounding on doors. The regulars are coming out. Church bells rang, alarm guns fired. By dawn, militia companies assembled, checking powder and ball. Lexington and Concord, April 19th. The first shots of the American Revolution. On Lexington Green at dawn, 77 militiamen faced 700 British regulars. Someone fired. Then volleys erupted. 8 colonists lay dead. At Concord's North Bridge, militia fired back. The British retreated toward Boston. Colonial fighters harassed them the entire 16 miles. 73 British soldiers died. 200 were wounded. The war had begun. Siege of Boston, April 1775. 20,000 colonial militia surrounded the city. George Washington arrived in July to take command of what was now the Continental Army. British forces controlled Boston, but were trapped. The standoff lasted nearly a year. Washington's army dug trenches in a semicircle from Chelsea to Roxbury. Fortification of Dorchester Heights, March 4, 1776. In one night, Washington seized high ground. Artillery, captured at Fort Ticonderoga, was positioned overlooking Boston and the harbor. General Howe woke to find cannon aimed at his fleet. Boston had become indefensible. British evacuation, March 17, 1776. 125 ships left forever. 9,000 troops and over 1,000 Loyalist families abandoned Boston. Washington's army marched in unopposed. Church bells rang. The siege was over. Boston was free. This is where it truly started. Not in Philadelphia, not in Yorktown. Here, in these streets, where merchants refused unjust taxes, where citizens confronted armed soldiers, where Minutemen answered the midnight call. Boston did not choose revolution, but when the moment came, it did not hesitate. This is the city that sparked the war that created a nation.